Guy's amazing.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's got a cat, though.
I'm Adam Breneman.
This is.
Next up. Wild. Next up. Perfect. All right. Appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this.
There we go.
We set up. Appreciate your time.
Tight end. I'm a DB. covered a lot of tight ends over the day. So
yeah, tell me about your playing career.
Oh, I played defensive back in college, and I was a running back in high school, and we platooned in my high school. We were a pretty big high school. I had like 800 people in my graduating class, 700, whatever. We platooned. I played running back, and I didn't think I'd play Division I ball running back. So I knew I was going to play defense. I played goal line defense. So I went to junior college. Back then, if you're from where I was from, Kansas City, if you didn't get recruited by Division I, you go JUCO.
JUCO, yeah.
And played defensive back, strong safety. And then I got re-recruited and went to Arkansas State and ended up playing there. And then I went on from there to coach. Sent about 70 resumes. I went to this little thing called this computer lab on campus back in the old days, and I filled out a resume and sent it to about 80.
You didn't have your own computer?
No, nobody had a computer.
Yeah.
I had to go to this place called this computer lab, and send about 70 resumes to coaches. Mm-hmm. I mean, I sent them to Bo Schembechler, Joe Paterno, every coach you can think of, big time coach. And I got a letter back from University of Kansas, and I was hired to be a quality. They're called analysts now. They're analysts. Yeah. So I was like one of the very first analysts that was allowed in college athletics. They called them quality controls back then. So I was on the defensive side. So we did a lot of offenses.
Knowing what the analyst salaries are today, I mean, that had to be a low-paying position, right?
I was making a lot of money back then. I was making $380 a month. For 3 years, it was outstanding.
It was a dream come true.
I had enough money. $300 went to rent.
Yeah.
And I lived with this guy named Mark Slider, which was one of my ex-teammates, and he was in hospital administration. And I paid him $300 a month rent, and then I had $80 left over for beer. So and then I ate in the training table with the players. So that was about 3 years.
I love it.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that playing time and coaching kind of prepared you to be an athletic director?
Well, I think what it does is it allows you to really understand what our student athletes are going through. Not only the daily grind of being a student athlete, the educational goals you have, the pursuits you have, the rigor of education and athletics together, but also being a transfer, people that have to transfer, people that are trying to make it, that want to play Division I sports or any sports in particular. I think I have a pretty good grasp on that. I think I'm one of only a handful of ADs in the country, FBS ADs in the country that have been a Division I athlete and a Division I coach, FBS coach. And so they didn't call it that, but then they called it 1A.
Yeah.
1A, remember that?
1A, 1AA.
1A, 1AA.
People still call it 1AA, right?
I know, they just, one FCS. That's changed since I've been in AD. It was 1A, 1AA, and then it went from, went to BCS, and then it went to FBS conference. So, so I think it's really helped shape my principles as an athletic director, and what we do every single day. It's you got to keep the main thing. Something has to be the main thing. And ours is postgraduate goals and aspirations our administration really has to focus on, we're the only school in the country that if you sign a national letter of intent with us, that we're going to guarantee you a job and your career. We've had 100% job placement for about 9 years.
That's awesome.
AD, so it's been good.
So when you say you guarantee the job and career, how's that work?
We guarantee you. So if you stay with our school, finish eligibility, graduate, and we start matriculating you through a program called the Knights Leadership Academy, and we guarantee you a job. when you graduate, or grad school placement. Some go to grad school. So, we have a whole program set in place after their freshman year. We put them in this and we find a mentor, we get them ready, and so they have a leg up. And if they don't make it and a lot of our athletes believe they can play pro, women's basketball, men's basketball, football. But we know the percentages are small, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yep.
So we have to be prepared for that, and we're their plan B if they don't make it. And it's been successful. We've helped many young people, thousands of young men and women, change the narrative of what they've grown up to believe, and with a career. And the greatest satisfaction for me is when I get a picture of someone's new house that they bought, or their office space that they're working in, and that's so far more important than all the points and tackles they make and catches they make and baskets. So that's something that drives us every single day. Those are the core principles that we have. And if it doesn't help us get better on the playing surface or in the classroom, so you can have a long career, then we're not going to do it.
I'm curious about your journey to getting to UCF and how your time at Arkansas State kind of prepared you for this moment.
Well, I wasn't really looking for anything, and I was asked over the years to interview for other jobs, and they took care of me, and I had great bosses, and had 3 chancellors there, and had a system president that was really good, and they were good to me. And so I wasn't really looking for something. I was trying to build something. And we built $90 million of new facilities. We took our budget from when I first got there, $15 million to $42 million. We had really good staff, and we just learning as you go. I mean, no 2 athletic departments are the same.
Yeah.
When this position opened up, I'm not a caretaker. It'd be really hard for me to go to school like Alabama. I'm a foundation builder, always have. Go back my background, I was at FAU. The stadium project was the project that I worked on, the new stadium that's down there in South Florida. And so I've always been at programs that are builders. And I've worked for some of the greatest architects in college football and just college athletics in history. So that's how I've been brought up in this business. And so when this one opened up, I knew there was a lot of work to do. Had a really good foundation, but was nowhere complete.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of work to do, and we're doing it. Now we're going on 3 parallel tracks with capital improvements, operating capital, and maintenance funds, and that's going to help. That's what we have to focus on in our Mission 12 as we transition to the Big 12.
I think the one thing fans will be interested to hear is how that search process happens. Like when do you get the call about the UCF job? How's it happen?
Yeah, I just got a call from a search and said, "Are you interested in the job?" And I was like, "Eh." I was like Lou from Major League. Yeah, I'm trying to sell a pair of white walls on the other side. But no, I was. It was not because UCF was. It's just like I had it good. And we were just coming off COVID year, and we just hired a new coach, and I was feeling bad about that. But then I started thinking about it. I said, let me think about it, and I started thinking about it. And it's a school that I always looked at that would be one of my top schools that I would leave my previous place for. And for a lot of it, it has to do with I love the region, I love the area, I know you can win. It fits my personality. We have a lot of work to do, and hopefully we have an administration. I believe we have an administration and a board, and with that, and we have a fan base that really wants to take our program to different heights, and that includes the 3 things I just talked about with the building our budgets, operating capital, and capital improvements. So then I started getting excited about it, and I interviewed, and they offered me the job, which was very nice. I'm sure they had good candidates.
Yeah. You took the job at a unique time, too, because there was no head football coach. And you then hired Coach Malzahn within, what was it, like 3 days, 4 days?
I was trying to get them to hire an interim, that way we could take our time, because it was February.
Yeah.
And you think about the people that were available, there was a lot of coaches that were already re-signed or signed or had contracts. We didn't have a lot of buyout money. We had some buyout money. from the transition of the previous AD and the previous head coach. But the day I was hired is when I started working. There was no, hey, I'll see you in a month. It was, my first day in the job was my press conference. I started a couple of days before that when I knew I was getting the job. I started making some calls to gather the interest of coaches. And I think we had a pretty good pool. And, I think at the end of the day, for where we needed to go after my first day in the job, I wanted to meet with the football team because I knew that was going to be a big hire. And I knew how important this hire was to this fan base. And so I met with the team, and then I met with the leadership team. And I talked to them for 30, 45 minutes and basically just peppered them with questions about the culture. And I didn't use those words. Yeah. I just asked them a lot of different questions, recruiting, strength and conditioning, all that kind of stuff. And plus I was on the college football playoff committee. And so I saw the teams, and I watched a lot of film. I watched UCF a lot, and I saw that, I think that we needed to probably step up our recruiting some, and we had some really good players here, but we needed to continue to recruit at a very high level that I think that this fan base deserves, and I think our university deserves. And in order for us, and at the time, we didn't have an invitation to the Big 12, but I still thought we had a chance to win a real national championship, and I thought we could, with the right coach and our vision and athletic department and our goals and our principles, that we could attract some of the best talented or the most talented young people in the country.
After you found out you were getting the AD job, how quickly did you call Coach Malzahn after that?
Well, I actually called him a couple days when I knew I was going to get the job. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I grew up in Kansas City, and my dad had tickets in 1980. So the Kansas City Chiefs were playing in the Super Bowl when the day that I got the offer. So I didn't even watch the game. They were playing the Bucs. They lost. So, but that was kind of. So I made a call, I think that night, to Coach Malzahn. I said, listen, but because I didn't know if I had no idea if he was interested or not. And he said, listen, I am interested. Now that you're getting the job, I'm definitely interested. So I said, okay, well, stay tuned. I'll get back to you. Let me get this stuff done, and I'll get back to you. And then I just knew he was going to be in the pool. If he said, nah, you know what, I'm going to sit this year out. It's been tough. And even that, after he said he was interested, we had a long conversation because, what he went through was pretty traumatic. Yeah. And he's a very successful coach. And, I hired another coach in my past that had to go through a very traumatic situation too. And they said, he wasn't ready to get back into it. And I wanted to make sure that he was ready. And he convinced me that he was ready. He was ready. He was like, I've already been out for like 6 months or 4 months or whatever. 3 months, whatever it was. And he's like, I'm ready to get back. Yeah. So that's just what he does. He's a coach. So, but we had a good pool. Would have probably been different if it wasn't February, if it was December, just because it was late. Yeah. So
makes sense.
But it was still he was the right guy at the right time for all the elements that we needed. We needed somebody that could recruit at a very high level, and they do it the best in the SEC. So.
And you guys have had very little, even when you came and then when Coach Malzahn came, there was very little attrition. You lost very few players in that time frame of not having a coach.
We didn't have one in the portal.
Yeah. Which is remarkable when you think about it with today's day and age of football.
And I knew, if you really go back, and then we start getting the X and O's of the philosophy of the offense and defense, is you have to have a power running game. You go back and look at whether it's the NFL, Little League, high school, college, the teams that have the best running games. Mm-hmm. And you can win a lot of games by throwing the ball, but Jimmy, you have to run the ball too. And having a good power running game, and that was something that was really important. And I looked at, we didn't have at the previous couple of years, we didn't have very good complement. Our complementary offense was not probably where it needed to be. They were very fast. They played at a high level, but they were off the field really quick.
A lot of 3 and outs.
A lot of 3 outs. Yeah. So the defense was on the field. So complementary football was something that was going to be really important, and eating up the clock and sustaining drives and scoring in the red zone. And that was something that I looked at it, scrutinized a lot when I was doing the evaluation.
Can you give us or take us behind the scenes of the conference realignment discussions and how the Big 12 came to be?
So, when I first got here, we started looking at it. We were prepared. We had a trustee meeting, even though when I literally started preparing it the first week. And we had a trustee meeting. We introduced our concept of the football campus. And that was something that we put out, we dripped out there nationally.
Yeah.
So that if there was ever conference realignment, I've been through conference realignment 6 times.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've had experience.
Been around the block.
You have to be prepared.
Yeah.
Because you never know when it's coming. And so if you think it's coming, it'll hit you, and all of a sudden you're not prepared. So when Texas and Oklahoma decided to go to the SEC, the announcement came. I think even some ADs in the SEC were surprised that they were coming in. We were prepared. We didn't have to do much. The only thing we had to do is probably send out some more packets and all that stuff. So, we reached out and to see, I sent my contact info to the commissioners, and, there was a need, and obviously our history and the evolution of our program, we were very attractive. And I think we were definitely one of the best on the board for expansion. And that's how it all got started. And then Bob Bowlesby came to my house to met with me. And my house wasn't even still moving in, and met with me and my board chair, Alex Martins, and our university president, Alex Cartwright, and we had a conversation. That's when it started.
Was it the Big 12 the whole time, or are there other conferences?
Well, we were looking at other things too, but I mean, whatever. I didn't know you had to be. You had to reach out to everybody just because you didn't know how things were going to, move. I was in the Big 12 when they went from the Big 8 to the Big 12, and I was in the Big 12 the second time when Nebraska and Colorado left and Texas A&M left and TCU was brought in. So you just never know who was going to go where. Yeah. So you were talking to as many people that would talk to you.
You guys have been so innovative as an athletic department, and I see it in the football program with just from a social media standpoint, from the things like the QR codes on the back of the jerseys, and in your lobby, the sign says the future of college athletics, the future of college football, whatever it says. Is that strategic, and where does that kind of mentality come from?
Well, it has a lot to do with it. We're trying to mirror our youthfulness and playfulness of our fan base and our alumni. Mm-hmm. We have 350,000 living alumni, and our average age is at 38. Yeah, and we're the only alumni that's getting
not a ton of old donors.
No, we don't look like a lot of the traditional college towns when you go into those towns, and so. With NIL, presenting itself, the region that we lived, we were, in a metropolitan area. We serve this community at a very high level in the industry, in the different industries, I should say. And so I do think that our university is the future of what higher ed is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, then I think these metropolitan flight departments will be able to flourish as well. Because at the end of the day, kids are looking for end result. End results is how are you going to get me to where I need to go? And if it's not to the NFL, NBA, WNBA, Major League Soccer, men and women Major League Soccer, then it has to be in a career and a job. Mm-hmm. And I think we are best poised to do that in this region, in this state, to do exactly that, as opposed to more traditional college towns. Where your university is the industry, and that's about it. And so, and then as you reference, we have a really smart, student body. We have 70,000 students, so the average ACT score is 28. I couldn't have taken it twice and got that. And so the fact of the matter is really smart. And so the social media engagement is very high.
It's awesome. Yeah,
very high.
You guys are trending on Twitter the other night during the Temple game. I couldn't scroll anywhere without seeing UCF and the space jerseys.
Yeah, and just we had these little elements, these space jerseys. I was getting texts from my friends across the country like, "What is this? What are you guys doing?" And then I send them the graphic of what. Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
So cool.
And I think that's really cool for the Big 12 because you're always looking for unique elements as a conference, and just the same old boring traditional college towns. You don't get that here. You're bringing in we match the vision of our new commissioner, Brett Yormark. We're open for business. We want to be youthful and playful, and we want to be top of mind. And that's who we are.
There's a book I read one time. It's called Brands Win Championships. It talks about how you don't win championships. It all starts with the brand. Do you believe that?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think building your brand is huge.
Yeah.
You look at some of these college teams around the country, they may not have won a conference championship in 8-9 years, but they still have great brands.
Yeah.
Because they continue to develop it.
Yeah. How does UCF in this department keep up with the college football arms race and recruiting? With the new every program, it seems like, is remodeling their facility every other year.
Recruiting has a lot to do. You were a recruited athlete, it has a lot. First of all, it has to be evaluation first. And so nothing's ever changed. You think about it, let's go back to the 50s and 60s. Alabama, Notre Dame, Navy, USC, Oklahoma, all these, they're still recruiting at a high level. Those brands are still recruiting at a high level. You got to be able to evaluate, recruit, and then develop. That's never going to change. I don't care what the arms race is, how good your facilities are. I can show you a lot of schools that have phenomenal facilities that aren't very good.
Yeah.
You've probably seen them.
Yeah.
Right?
True. Yeah.
Because they haven't hired the right people. They haven't had the right cultures. They maybe pull the trigger, too quickly. And so I think the biggest thing is you have to show to your student athletes that you have an end result.
Yeah.
And in the programs that I've been a part of, we've done that. And I think that becomes the race is not so much how big your locker room is. It's a mix. It's like, what are you getting? What are the student athletes? How much are they getting? What's the NIL? How are you going to take care of me? Where am I going to live?
Yeah.
Do I have the opportunity to play pro ball after, or if I don't make it, do I have an opportunity to get a job in a great community or wherever? So I think that it's the total package. You have to sell the total package.
How involved are you in recruiting as the athletic director?
Very.
Meeting with big recruits?
Yeah, I met with a young lady yesterday, an international student from golfer, and her coach, international student. I mean, I'm very involved.
That's awesome.
And I talk to the 4- and 5-star recruits that are here on our weekends, and I tell them, listen, we're going to guarantee you a job and career, and on your career path. And I get more 4- or 5-star parents that want to talk to me about that as opposed to NIL. So tell me about what this is. I said yes, because a career changes your family circumstances for life, whether it be pro, whatever. Even if you get a cup of coffee in whatever pro industry you're in, you're not usually playing for more than 3 or 4 years, right? So you're going to have to come back and go do something. So you have to have those connections in place to be highly successful in that. And over the years, I've had guys that go get a cup of coffee in the NFL. They make a little bit of money, and they started businesses and they're doing really well. Yeah. But we put them in. We find the right mentors. And we find the right areas for them to be successful. And as a result, they've changed their family's circumstances for life. Yeah.
College football, but really college athletics has changed more in the past 3 years than it has in really the last 30 years. Right. What are your thoughts on the state of college football, college athletics with the NIL, the transfer portal, the arms race and recruiting, all of it combined at one time is creating kind of this. A lot of people
I'm a fan of NIL, the way it's applied. I always have been. I don't like the idea of NIL and the transfer portal the way it's being utilized right now. And basically, you're just doing free agency. You're just going to pay for players. I don't like it. It's not right. I think what happens is more kids get get bamboozled than or student athletes than actually prosper. I can show you several students that have left this place because they've been promised a bunch and they're not playing all that much.
Yeah.
And it was a kind of it was a perfect storm for NIL and transfer portal to hit at the exact same time. We definitely have to put some guardrails on it. We need to reevaluate it. Hopefully, we'll have some congressional intervention for some anti-exemptions, like some of the pro leagues do. So we're not constantly sued for everything we do. Because at the end of the day, I still say this: it is not a right to be a student athlete; it is a privilege. I don't know why everybody feels entitled. You're a former student athlete. I'm a former student athlete. Every single day that I was out there, I felt very blessed to be able to do it. Yeah. And I think a lot of our kids, when they start thinking about it, they don't want to be employees. You hear us, we want to put, that's the national media talking. They don't want to be employees. Yeah. Because they understand, wait a minute, if I'm an employee, I can be fired. Yeah. So they don't want to do that. So, but I do definitely think that we have to, when we hire the next executive director of the NCAA, that we have to have a really strong football guy. Hopefully we'll hire somebody that has that background. And I think that they're going to have to reconfigure and repurpose some of the governance of what we're doing in football.
You guys use the transfer portal to get really probably the face of your football program now, John Rice Plumlee.
Yeah.
Were you involved in his recruiting at all when he
No.
was? Because I guess Coach Malzahn knew him.
Yeah, he knew him, and some of our coaches were involved in recruiting. I mean, he kept me up to date on it, but I mean, he came on his visit. I met him, but I mean, at the end of the day, those guys they're going to play, and we looked at a lot of quarterbacks that are starting in Power 5 right now, in autonomy schools. So he kept me up to date on, and he recruited John Rice out of Auburn, and I think Chip Lindsey, offense coordinator, was involved in that. So they had a real comfort level with him. Yeah, they could run the offense.
We interviewed him yesterday, and
you did?
Great, awesome kid. And we talked about you a little bit. He was like, he's the man. Love that guy. Yeah, he's got a great personality.
He's got a great personality. Yeah, he's a great guy, and I think he's really, as he continues to settle in this position and you get reacquainted with, and played for quarterback for a couple of years. Yeah. I think he's really developing a leadership role in this football team, but just in the athletic department.
Yeah. Where do you think UCF football can be in 5 years?
We can win a national championship. I really do. I believe that. We got a lot of work to do. I think we can win the Big 12. If I didn't think we could do it, I wouldn't push so hard to do it, to join the league. But it's we're competing against teams that have been playing football for 100 years, and since the 1800s, late 1800s, and so we have a lot of work to do, a lot of transition. Resources are really important, and I think we're on track. We're doing a good job with it. We got a great staff here, got the right people in place, and you got to continue to recruit at a very high level and get the right type of player. I say OKGs, our kind of guys, or our kind of girls. That's the type of those are people that are selfless, that want to be really good, but also are high achievers and want to be good in the classroom and playing surfaces. And that's what we got to continue to do.
In what area do you think UCF is a little bit behind, or maybe would be the biggest challenge to that?
Well, I mean, you think about the TV distributions that the Autonomy 5 schools have been getting over the years. I mean, you're talking about $50 million. When you're competing with teams up the road, that have a TV distribution of $50 million and per year, those are heavily resourced programs. So you're talking about budgets, personnel, operating capital, recruiting, travel, capital projects, capital facilities. So they're doing everybody else.
It's all money, right?
It's all so. And I think that's where we've got to get caught up. I mean, the Big 12 as well. I mean, I worked at a big school before, and they're heavily resourced, and they're just starting to get. Worked at the University of Kansas, they're really getting good at football again, and their basketball program is an elite program, and so that's the type of going into the best basketball conference in the country.
Yeah.
Next year we'll be in the best basketball conference in the country, and it's a high level, and we're going to be in a top 3 football conference, and so we got a lot of work to do. So that's why evaluation, recruiting, and development is the 3 things that we have to continue to do, and find those young people that are OKGs.
I got a few personal rapid fire questions to end here. What's been the most challenging moment of your career?
Challenging moment.
Or where you face some adversity,
I think COVID, during that COVID time, was trying to figure out how to pay our staff, our bills. That was really challenging, and trying to raise money during that time when no one couldn't get people to come to the games and all that kind of stuff. And the stress of that was huge. And then plus competing and trying to play football, which we did, and that was probably really challenging.
Yeah.
I think anytime you have to let somebody go, that's another real tough thing to do.
Yeah.
It's part of the job, especially when you're talking about coaches and their families that you get to know, and that's I haven't had to do it a lot. Some it's for the best at times, but those are also really challenging things. Yeah. And then I think the other thing is just personally is your family life. Your people say, well, how do you have work-life balance? You really don't. I mean, I'll just be frank.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Your family just kind of knows. And every year during Christmas, it's like, what are we doing for Christmas vacation? I don't know which bowl game we're going to. So I mean, it's like no one ever really knows anything until you know something about the bowl games, or so you can't really plan. And what do you do over spring break? Your whole family is waiting for spring break. Well, it depends on what happens in March Madness. So it's like it's a lifestyle. I have 2 daughters in college now. And, it's just kind of lifestyle. Yeah. You'd have to ask them what it was like growing up in time-demanding job. Yeah. I've unfortunately, this is my fault. It's like The Godfather 2. It's the life we choose. I've never coached my son in Little League. One time in basketball, we played for the tournament championship, by the way. I coached the one time I coached in basketball. I took over, that was the only time I never got to coach him in football, and I regret all that stuff. And I've talked to him about it, and those are some personal things that I know I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be really emotional about it, because I'm like, okay, all my kids are gone, and I didn't do this, and this, and again, that's where I always go back to. This is the life we choose. We've also had a lot of things that they probably would tell you that was great. So
I saw your kids got you on social media, right? They got you doing some dances on there.
It's my second daughter. She's social media, and she's the one that gets me on that stuff.
You were viral for a little bit.
I don't know which one. I've done a few, and then my wife wanted me to do some challenges, couple challenges every once in a while. And so those are the things where I'm not around a lot. And so when they ask you, and it's like, no, I'm not doing it. And like, seriously, it's a fight. I'm not doing it. Yeah. One of the ones I did New Year's Eve, I was like, I do not want to do that. So, it's like, if you love me, you're never here. You don't do this. But you're going to do this. Okay. All right. So then you just do it. So
I love it. I love it. What would be your favorite moment of your career so far?
Honestly, it is the thousands of young people seeing them be successful. A lot of times when we have young people coming into your office, enter into your athletics department, they've been told their whole life the only way they can make it out of their circumstances, make it out of their environment, is being an entertainer or an athlete. Yeah. And we've convinced them that you can make as much money with the books on your back as the shoes on your feet. Yeah. And to see all these young people that are not athletes, pros, or not entertainers, that are career guys making money, doing very well, buying houses, starting a new life, breaking the cycle that they've told that they cannot break. That our politicians still today, some politicians talk about you have to depend on other people. You don't. I've seen it happen. And that's been the most rewarding is seeing, and like I said, when someone takes a picture of their office space, their cube, their office, their first house, their first car, that to me is, I get real emotional thinking about it. That's when we know we really helped somebody.
What's the first 30 minutes of your morning? What are you doing when you wake up? Checking your phone?
Checking my phone. Well, sometimes. I usually drive. It depends on if I'm taking my son to school or not. It's kind of out of the way, but I don't mind. And like today, I took him to, he goes to Bishop Moore High School, and took him to high school, and then I drove in. I'm checking my phone, making calls. And then, checking emails, text. Usually it's text. And I'm not a big emailer because I'm like, you want to get a hold of me, text me. And I have too much. And then I have, I check Twitter, for all the advice that I get on Twitter. make sure I'm not missing something. So, make sure next time I'm doing things right. But it's fun. It's fun interacting with the fans, and I try to interact with them as much as I possibly can. When they're legit questions, it's every day is a little different. You have personnel, you have student athletes, you have a lot of emotional people. That's part of an athletics. You have a lot of people that are wanting to win, and when winning at a high level, things are going good. When you're not winning as much, things are a little more difficult. And so
a lot of personalities to manage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last one I got for you.
Yeah.
How do you define success?
Depends on the area. There's successful moments all the time, and it could be a 2-week successful moment. I don't really define success because success is different to different people. We have a student athlete that has a learning disability, but is a hard worker, and his success is a lot different than one of my engineering students. Right? And so they work hard. They go to school every single day. They want to change. They want to improve. If you're a team that wins 0 and then you win 6 the next year, that's success. I think improvement is how I define success. Are you getting better? Are you a high producer? Do you achieve at a high level? And I think everybody has to determine what that is. And so it's interesting because I always say you want to be a little better than you were the day before. And from a revenue standpoint, we need to raise $1 more than the year before. So that's how I defined success, is just getting better at what you do. Because if you don't constantly push yourself of getting better, you could go backwards. And that's the hard part, especially, your achievements of the day become your expectations of tomorrow. And so you have to continue to be high achievers. And it may look differently in different areas. You may have achieved something really big this year, and it may be something different this year because of the goals that you set. And so I think it's a tough question to answer because everybody is at a different point in their lives. We from a basketball standpoint, if we win the conference, in the Big 12, when we go over and win the AAC this year, that's a lot successful. Because we haven't done it. And so, men's soccer, football, we've done it before. So other sports, softball, softball, we won it last year. Now our achievements become our expectations of tomorrow. So is it successful that if you do exactly what you did last year? I'd say so. But what's the next threshold of that success? Well, you went to the Sweet 16 in softball last year, won the conference. So you got to go to the Elite 8 now? Or just going back to the NCAA tournament is successful? I think you have to define that yourself.
Well, I appreciate your time. This was awesome. It was fun.
It's fun.
I'm a UCF fan now, so
I'm
excited. After meeting JRP, meeting you,
it's good.
It's been good.
How was he? Was he fun?
He was amazing. He was. I mean, the video guys were there. He was cool, right? He was a great personality, and it was fun talking to him. He does everything. He plays the piano. He's a singer. He plays baseball, football. I mean, That's amazing.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's got a cat though.
Does he have a cat?
He's got a cat. He's got a cat. It's like, dude,
that's a little weird.
yeah, that's what I was like. When I first met, he's got a cat. I was like, oh, coach, you know he's got a cat.
I love it.
He made fun of himself about having a cat. So he was like, I know, but I kind of wanted a pet during COVID, and he was like, I got a cat, and and I was like, dude, a cat? I was like, they don't
Is
take.
he the only quarterback in the country with a cat?
I don't know. I said, I said the NFL doesn't take quarterbacks because they have cats. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
That's great.
No, but anyway, it's good. It's good.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate you guys.
So much. Appreciate
Thank you,
it. Great to
man.
meet you.